Sakyaya Namaha. Om Hingulambikaya Namaha. Om Kalakalaya Vidmahe Kalatitaya Dhimahi Tanno Kalabhairava Prachodayat. Om Hingule Paramahingule Amritarupini Tanushaktimana Shive Shri Hingulambikaya Namaha. Namaskaram. Welcome to yet another sacred episode of Guru Bhairava. I am consciously telling about the sacred episode. Reason is, when it comes to the Bhairava, it is a living presence of the Bhairava. Each episode or each information what we are trying to share in the Bhairava Anugraha is connected to one particular living presence of Bhairava Tattva. And especially each episode is not just an information, it is a remembrance for us as a Bhairava sadhakas to know how exactly our Guru Bhairava connection is connected to the different Swarupas when it comes to the mythology, or also when it comes to the deepest connection of Shiva. And today we are going to talk about one particular of Swarupa, which is on a Vedic aspect perspective, many of them has known about this particular Swarupa, but there is also one more reflection of that particular Swarupa in a different aspect. This is Sri Sadashiva Bhairava. As most of them would be knowing, when it comes to the Sadashiva, it is connected to the Mata Annapurna. And when it comes to the Mata Annapurna, I believe every one of them, of the Shiva Bhaktas, would be knowing about the story about the connection between Shiva as well as Ma Annapurna. This story is actually connected back to the Kashi Kshetra, where even in a Skanda Purana, it is beautifully been articulated. Just to give you an overview, like it happened in one such a way that Shiva there was a discussion between Ma Shiva as well as a Parvati, and Shiva made a conclusion or a statement to the world that world is a Maya, and whatever he told, like the food, body, material, existence are not ultimately real. He made this statement in front of Ma. When he was in a deep meditative state and when he was about to disclose this information, he actually shared this information stating that the illusion is, the Maya is of what the body is connected to. It may be body, food, or even a material existence. He was able to connect to these information. But Ma, hearing this, she actually decided to teach Shiva, Parashiva, him a lesson, and that lesson was it was like it was she disappeared from that particular Kailasha Kshetra. She made sure that actually her disappearance made a big absence in the entire in entire kshetra, where actually they were able to understand what is an importance. With her disappearance, automatically the food vanished. Even like crops failed, hunger spreaded everywhere. We call this as actually ahakara was actually spouting up. Like people were actually very hungry, and every Rishi Munis, Devatas, Ganas, everyone got to know that actually there is a shortage of the food and crops are not coming out. The food has been vanished in the Mrityuloka and all the lokas, and they have come to know about the importance of the nourishment of the food. Even Shiva felt that the absence of the nourishment at that time. He immediately, Shiva, he realized that actually whatever he told at that given point of time, that this is a Maya illusion. The food, body, and the material aspect is an illusion, because this is the sustenance tool for actually to experience the Shiva and the Devi. But Shiva himself forgot that, actually telling that without Shakti, all those are illusions. So Ma thought him that actually she will be teaching a lesson to him. And this is what the episode of the story happened. And here, realizing that the Shakti, the Divine Mother, is the sustenance behind all the creation is what actually he was able to understand. Shiva went to the Kashi Kshetra to seek her, and Ma was there, and he was able to seek her. And in that Kashi Kshetra, there the Parvati Ma appeared as Annapurneshwari Devi. And Annapurneshwari Ma, as everyone of us know, that she is a devata of nourishments. She is a nourishment of all beings. Nourishments not to the particular human life, no, nourishment to the entire cosmos. She sat there with a golden bowl. Maybe whoever have gone to the Kashi Kshetra, they would be knowing this. She is holding a golden bowl, and Shiva himself is begging, feeding to the world. He wants to nourish the entire world, because entire ahakara was being, means entire Ganaloka, entire Rishis, entire Devatas started approaching to the Shiva that there is a missing of the nourishment in the cosmos, and his involvement need to be immediately being done. So for the entire creation, he being the father of the Loka, he went to the Mata asking in a bhiksha, in a bowl, asking for the Bahut Bhikshandehi. This is one aspect of the story. Shiva himself came in a begging bowl. This is one aspect of the story where Annapurna Ma feeded him. This meaning, whatever we are aware, is actually connected to the different connections. And how exactly this is connected to Sadashiva Bhairava, we'll talk about this. See, when it comes to the Shiva, it is a consciousness. Is Shiva without the Shakti is inactive. This is what the story was able to tell us. Spiritual truth cannot reject the material existence. This is what all the greatest sages have given the what we call it as the secret information to the entire Mrityuloka, that spiritual truth cannot reject the material existence. So material existence is very much needed when it comes to the spiritual truth. We can call it as, to know the spiritual truth, material existence is very much essential. And here, food is so sacred and nourishment is so divine. Shiva himself was able to experience this. And this is what this today's connection of the particular Shiva Swarupa is connected to. Here, Shiva, especially in Sadashiva Bhairava Swarupa, he is very, very calm. He is a protective form, because he is in a, here actually in the Tantra Shaiva perspective tradition, he is considered as a Saumya. In some of the scriptures, it is also been said Sadashiva Bhairava is also connected to Ekavaktra Bhairava. Maybe actually we'll talk about this Ekavaktra Bhairava later, but here in Sadashiva Bhairava, he is especially connected to, even in the Tantra aspect perspective, he is connected to the food, nourishment, and timely supports of the life. Timely supports, whenever we require any kind of an energy, Shakti we need it. He is a person where actually he gets a Shakti from the energy from the Shaktima, and he makes sure that actually that nourishment has been provided to the sadhakas. In some tradition, he is also an active force of, as I told you, Mata Annapurneshwari. Here, his Swarupa has been little bit differently been portrayed when it comes to the Kaula Tantra. In Kaula Tantra, Ma Annapurneshwari is actually a Ma, and he is protected by one particular Bhairava Swarupa, as always been told. Any Devis associated across the cosmos creation in the Devi Lok, in entire Devi tradition perspective, in all the Devi tradition perspective, there is one particular Swarupa of the Bhairava which has always been connected to. And when it comes to the Annapurneshwari Ma, we always talk about Vishwanatha, Kashi Vishwanatha. But here in Kaula Tantra, it is connected to the Sadashiva Bhairava. Shiva himself in the Swarupa of the Bhairava in Sadashiva's Swarupa perspective. The Divine Mother who feeds and removes the hunger is actually being considered as a supreme in this Mrityuloka. For example, she is the only one who can make us feel as complete. If you maybe actually I believe you would be agreeing with me on this particular statement, especially for the any for when you go and give any kind of an material um, existence to the anyone, they always have a hunger to have much more in their life. They always tell, I need more. But when it comes to the aharam, when it comes to the annam, and when it comes to the um, quenching the what jataragni, once it is complete, this is the only where you tell that actually I am complete, I am done. So Annapurna is a divine mother for feeding and removing the hunger, and even to connect to the spiritual stages. Hunger is what actually the basically is an essence of it. Even for the spirituality, to go to the next um, exploration, to understand the Shiva Tattva, to experience the Bhairava within you, to all these stages, to go into this understanding, the hunger what we have it, and to quench that hunger, Annapurnama is what she is going to help us. The devotees, whoever prays to him, especially in the Sadashiva Bhairava's perspective, it has been considered that actually he sustains, he is going to protect us, he is going to give us a freedom from the material difficulties. Material difficulties. For example, why material difficulties? Today's many of the people, especially from the astrological perspective, whenever there is any kind of a cosmic events which is happening, it may be a particular tithis where actually particular puja vidhanas is being done, or it is a cosmic event of any kind of a grahana is happening, always the astrologer or the Vedic information always tells that how exactly we need to do a aradhana of the devatas, especially Shiva. In a Linga Swarupa perspective, what are the ingredients which need to be poured to him, where actually the material things can be grabbed into our life. Here, what we need to understand here is, he, Sadashiva Bhairava, being a Bhairava Swarupa perspective, whoever the bhakta, whoever the sadhaka is going to invoke him, he is not only going to sustain their life, he is going to protect their life, he is going to give a freedom from the what we call it as material difficulties of anything in this particular life. Whatever you ask for, it may be your promotion in your corporate office, it may be actually your educational progressions from one grade to other grade, achieving your professional success, or it may be a livelihood, for example, to get your daily sustenance, or even progression of your life to one particular stage of comfortness to the next stage of comfortness, that is also sustenance. This is also actually called as in material difficulties. Every actions which is connected to become something more is actually material difficulties which we are going to overcome from the Sadashiva Bhairava perspective. Here he shows with a very gentle face in the Brihad Bhairava Tantra. It is beautifully been articulated. He is like he is a Sundara Swarupa with three eyes, symbolizing the third eye being symbolizing the awareness, where actually he is going to make sure that the sadhakas quench of anything will be actually grabbed by him. In his hand, he folds the skulls, even similar to the Kala Bhairava. Maybe actually I'll try to connect how exactly Kala Bhairava and Sadashiva Bhairava are connected when it comes to the energy connection perspective. Where talking about the Sadashiva Bhairava, he holding the skull as well as a damuru, as well as a spear, as well as a wand. Similar to the Kalabhairava, here he represents something different. He represents actually as a creation. He represents the rhythm of the life. He represents as a protector. He represents as a divinity or authority of the particular creations. Here, when it comes to the iconography, beautifully it is been articulated in the Brihad Bhairava Tantra, even in the Kaula Tantra. Whenever there is a aradhana of the nourishment is being done, the first invocation is being done to the Ma Annapurneshwari. And when we do the sadhana of the Devi in the particular Swarupa of Annapurneshwari Ma, Sadashiva Bhairava Swarupa is one of a Swarupa where actually he has been always been activated. His form is beautiful, combining the kindness as well as the strength. Here, what we need to understand is he nourishes, protects, and sustains the life, and this is what actually even the Ma also does. But when it comes to the Dashamaha Bhairavas, I believe you would be already have seen our past videos about the Dashamaha Bhairavas. We have spoken 10 exclusive Swarupas of the Bhairava. In that particular Dashamaha Bhairava, sixth Swarupa of Dashamaha Bhairava is connected to Ekavaktra Bhairava. I believe in the initial I have already told you about this. Sadashiva Bhairava in few of the scriptures is also being referred as Ekavaktra Bhairava. Here, why Ekavaktra Bhairava? He is connected to one particular Devi Swarupini of Bagalamukima. She being connected to the eighth Swarupini of the Dashamahavidya, Stambhana Vidya. Ekavaktra Bhairava is actually been considered or spoken into a very different ways, because in Vedic he is also called Yagneshwara. Here Ekavaktra Bhairava, Sadashiva Bhairava is called the one of a Swarup of Yagneshwara. He is called as the particular name as Yagneshwara because he loves Yagnam, Yagnamaya. Even in Sahasranamavali, when we speak the Sahasranamavali of the even Sadashiva Shiva, Paramashiva, even in Shiva Paramashiva, when we do Ashtottara Shatanamavali, one of a what particular name is Yagneshwara. He loves Yagnam, like we can call it as he offers everything actions of our surrenderness through the Yagnam. There are 88 mantras when it comes to the particularly in the particular Yagneshwara Tantra. In the Shaiva Tantra, when it comes to the Ekavaktra, when it comes to the Yagneshwara, here in Yagneshwara there is one particular Tantra called Yagneshwara Tantra. It has 88 mantras. 76 mantras are actually being part of, we can call it as Yajurveda, and 12 mantras are connected to Atharvana Veda, because Atharvana Veda, whenever it comes into connection, the Tantra comes into a picture. This is how actually, when it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava, he is being considered as the Swarupa of Ekavaktra Bhairava, Yagneshwara. He has been considered or spoken as Yagneshwara. Ekavaktra, as connecting to the Sadashiva Bhairava, the particular Swarupa of him is actually forgiveness, patience. We can call it as peaceful nature. When Bhairava is in a peaceful nature, this is called we can refer this as particular as Sadashiva Bhairava. And when it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava, again it has its own different way of representation of the Bhairava Swarupa perspective. Here, when it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava, Ekavaktra Bhairava, please do not get confused about Ekavaktra Bhairava or Sadashiva Bhairava or Mahadeva Bhairava. Here, he is being spoken into a different samskara traditions in a different Swarupa, in a same Tattva perspective. Sadashiva Bhairava is the Moola Swarupa of Shiva, Paramashiva, and he is also being called as Ekavaktra Bhairava, and he is also being referred as Yagneshwara. And when it comes to the Yagneshwara Tantra, as I told you, this is how it has been connected to. When we speak about Sadashiva Bhairava, we are not speaking merely about the devatas to grant, or we can call it as who grant food or removes the poverty, as I told you. Here, in a very deepest level, when it comes to the Natha Sampradaya, every Bhairava Swarupa perspective is connected to one particular alignment of the body, mind and soul. And even in Kaula Tantra, this is beautifully been connected to something called as a deepest Tantra, where Sadashiva Bhairava is being considered as the Daiva of a sustenance field of consciousness. He is called as a Daiva of the who protects the consciousness. He is actually the principle that ensures that life continues and break flows, karma unfolds, and even the nourishment reaches to every being. This is like he is actually the gateway. We can call it as he is the main gateway of the connectivity when it comes to the field of the consciousness. Field doesn't mean that actually the paddy field or actually the agriculture field. Here we are talking in a different terms. See, let me just tell you, this is not outer mythology we are trying to explain. When it comes to the tantra, it is not only the mythology, it is about the cosmology of the inner body connection. You may be wondering why exactly the body connection is coming when it comes to the Bhairava Tantra perspective or Bhairava Tattva perspective. Before that, let me just explain. Here, Sadashiva Bhairava is considered as the caretaker, or we can call it as a servant of Annapurneshwari Ma, because even Shiva, as I told you, took a Bhiksha bowl, stood in front of Ma, and he promised to the entire creation that he is going to give a nourishment to the entire cosmos. In the surface understanding, what we can understand is he is said serving the mother Annapurneshwara, but the provider of the food. But the deeper tantric perspective you go, Annapurneshwara Ma is a infinity of the field of Shakti. He is actually the Swarupini of the Shakti, who feed the entire existence. Feeding for the existence may be anything, not only food. Even, see, knowledge is also a food. The sustenance of this life is also a food. To know something more about this life is also a food. Even for the students, if they want to go and excel in their academics, even they need a knowledge, and for that is also a food. Feeding the existence, this is what Ma Annapurneshwari was able to tell. But Sadashiva Bhairava, he being a consciousness, it was a disturbed that the Shakti, according to the karmic as well as the dharma perspective, he is going to give us a information. Here he is not a servant for the subordinations. Okay, here what we need to understand here is he is an executive force for entire divine distributions. In the divine distribution karma of the law, he is actually, like, let me just tell you like this, where there is a hungry, he measures whether that hungry is correct or not, because he is a protector of the man, and he measures all this information whether the particular request coming from the sadhaka or from the sadhaki or from the particular source of life is correct or not before the hungry is being quenched. Where there is a scarcity, he balances that particular as a tattva, and where there is an arrogance, he withholds that arrogance. As I told you, this particular Swarupa is very, very essential when it comes to the Bhairava Sadhaka perspective. And where there is a surrender, he flows. Wherever you take a Bhairava in this particular Saumya Swarupa perspective, he automatically flows. And wherever there is an overflow of the Bhairava Tattva, automatically there is nourishment is going to happen to that particular life and to that particular space. So the feed of existence automatically get completed. Here he governs we call it as Anna Tattva, means food. Anna Tattva, the principle of the sustenance, not just the physical food. As I told you, Anna Tattva is everything. Anna Tattva is actually the knowledge, the quench of the knowledge, the quench of the food, the quench of acquiring something, or the quench of acquiring some higher power, spiritual knowledge. All these things actually come into a particular called sustenance, and that is Anna Tattva. This is what Ma Annapurneshwari and the Sadashiva Swarupa perspective gives us a first essence, and that first essence is Anna Tattva, nourishment. To put it into a simple word, he nourished the entire creations. You tag anything to it, everything to it, entire cosmos, every action is connected to him, and that requires nourishment, and that nourishment is connected to Sadashiva Bhairava. There is one more aspect which my guru taught me when it comes to the it is a beautiful connection when he was explaining to us about how exactly Sadashiva Bhairava is different from any of the Swarupas. See, here Sadashiva Bhairava, when he is being spoken, we only speak about the as I told, like food field or Annakshetra, but there is a rahasya which is hidden into this. We can call it as Annakshetra rahasya. Annakshetra, Anna means, as I told you, nourishment, cosmos nourishment. Here, even in Brihad Bhairava Tantra, it is one of an articulation in one of a swarupa which is beautifully been said. How exactly this particular swarupa is not only connected to the food field or not only connected to the agricultural fields. Here it is connected to the body. You may be wondering how exactly it is connected. In certain Bhairava Tantra, we only talk about the food when it comes to the nourishment. How exactly nourishment? When we eat the food, it goes into the stomach and it gets digested. It comes out of the Muladhara. And there is inner energy field within every human being which performs this action of consuming this food, digesting it and coming out of the Muladhara. Here the feed lies on here the connection between the Muladhara and the Manipura. We have an axis, we call this an actually in the 7 chakras, especially from the Manipura to the Muladhara, is something which is connected to the lively purpose. If you are a chakra sadhaka, if you know about something about chakra sadhana, normally we tell first activation of the human existence is Muladhara, and the energy should be spiked up from Muladhara to the Manipura, and that is called existence axis. For this existence of this creation, Muladhara need to be activated. See, Muladhara is somewhat like a survival, or we can call it as a grounding or a basic security. Whoever doesn't have, I'm not trying to correlate with anything or any trouble. Whenever there is a problem for financial troubles in one's life, trust me, you have a problem with your Muladhara. That means in 7 chakras, Muladhara is actually disturbed. This is what even the chakra sadhana or a chakra tattva sadhana perspective it is being taught. But when we rise from a Muladhara to the Manipura, it is Manipura is where actually the proper digestion happens. It is actually called Jataragni. It is the fire actually which is going to quench that particular food. And the fire or the transformation is not like a personal power. Even to get into the knowledge to the action, if any knowledge coming into you and that knowledge to convert into an action, you need something called as in digestiveness actions. And this digestiveness actions, or it only happens in the Manipura Kshetra. And Manipura Kshetra, once it is active, automatically whatever you have learned, you will be able to replicate that. You will be able to move that as an action. Any source of idea, moving that to an action is Sadashiva Bhairava grace. Because it is rising from the Muladhara to the Manipura Kshetra. See, this axis governs how we survive, or we can call it as how we earn for this lively purpose, how we digest. It may be food, it may be knowledge, it may be like any aspects of the life, and transform the life into an experience is what this particular axis is being connected to. And this is what actually called Annakshetra Rahasya. Here, what we need to understand is Sadashiva Bhairava, he sustains, he holds this particular axis. How any kind of an anxiety increases without any clear reason, you understand that your Muladhara is disturbed. Any financial instability begins repeatedly in the one's particular life, understand that your Muladhara is disturbed. Any kind of a digestive problem is arrived in one's life, someone's life is arising in your life, understand you have something called Manipura has got disturbed. Fear for the survival. Many of the sadhakas comes and tell they have a fear for the survival. I want this, I want that. For example, I want money, I want girl, I want actually. I will tell you that is actually essential when it comes to experience of the life. But when you have a fear of the survival dominating your mind, automatically try to understand your Manipura is disturbed. Because survival energy is something like blocking at the root of the Manipura. And the transformation, whatever the fire becomes from the weak to the excessive, is what, and when it comes to the Anna Tattva Kshetra, we need to understand. But once the sadhaka activates Bhairava Tattva, when he comes as a Sadashiva Bhairava into your life, whatever we call it as, timing becomes very precise. You will be very precise on action, and your actions will be very clear, and you will be very precise on your timings. The resources, whatever you have, it arrives before any kind of a crisis. Hope you have especially Bhairava sadhakas, you would be knowing about this. Whenever you have a trouble in your life, someone will come in your life to support you. In a Bhairava Swarupa perspective, they will come and they will support you. Maybe it may be a money, you will be having a quench of need to pay the fees of the children. Maybe actually the fees is about more than a 2 lakhs, and you will be having a short of 40,000 to pay it off. But at the last minute, someone, a known friend, or even wife, or even a husband, or even your brothers, your own close relatives, or anyone suddenly comes into your life. They start giving the money to you, telling you that you use this money and later on you can pay it. Trust me, this is called a resource of arriving before the crisis. Whoever the Bhairava sadhakas are there, they will be able to see this. This particular surprise, or this particular glimpse of actions from his Swarupa perspective. This is a miracle. Every sadhakas will go through it. And the food and the support, we can call it as like a flowing of the nature. It happens very good. Inner fear dissolves. When inner fear is not there, automatically you are clear as what your ideas need to be moved to the directions, or not to the actions you need to. Confidence automatically stabilizes. Whoever have a better confidence, try to understand Bhairava, your Muladhara and your Manipura is active. When these axis is active, this particular axis of Manipura to the Muladhara is active, try to understand the sustenance of the life is being taken care. When the Manipura is stable, fear disappears. When it comes to the Muladhara, basically we call it as in the vice versa. When it comes to the Muladhara, it is a fear. But when it comes to the Manipura, it is a disruption, or it is a power weakens. Okay, so when any kind of a power weakens, automatically the Manipura is active. See, both need to be aligned when it comes to the chakra sadhana perspective. But why I am trying to tell you this is, here being a Anna Kshetra Rahasya, this is one of a very secretive information which is being shared from a Kaula Tantra perspective. Here, it is an axis between anxiety increases to the reduction of that anxiety, to take the control of that anxiety, the financial instability, to make sure that actually the resources before the crisis you are going to come into that situation. Everything will happen. See, let me just tell you, poverty is first an energy destruction. It is not merely economic. What we need to understand is, people think that when it comes to the poverty, they talk about the economics. No, it is the energy disturbance in this body and mind and soul. 3 levels of energy, body, mind and soul. Once there is an energy leakage, automatically economy of that particular source of life will come down. This is what Anna Kshetra Rahasya of the Sadashiva Bhairava is being shared. Here it is also being spoken when it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava. Every Devata Bhairava Swarupa perspective, it has its different way of connectivity. Here, what we can understand here is, when it comes to the Bhairava, here he is being spoken into a different aspect, especially when it comes to the energy comparison perspective. As I told you earlier, when it comes to the Kashi Kshetra, when it comes to the Vishwanatha, we speak about the Vishwanatha, we speak about Ma Parvati, we speak about the Annapurneshwara, we speak, even when it comes to the Kshetra, it is also Kala Bhairava is connected. Here, the Kala Bhairava Swarupa as well as Sadashiva Swarupa is complete, like I can call it as a two different contradicting Swarupas. When it comes to the dominating Tattva, because Shiva is a Sampurna Tattva, he is actually a whatever we call it as Satvika, Tamasika, Rajasika, he is a Sampurna Tattva. Here, when it comes to the Kala Bhairava, it is the Kala Tattva he holds. But when it comes to the Sadashiva, it is the eternal presence. Eternal presence is what actually Sadashiva Bhairava holds. When it comes to the mode, when we connect Kala Bhairava, we always know that he is a Farsi. He is a Farsi correction. He makes sure that actually you are being corrected. But Here, Sadashiva Bhairava, it is a gentle sustenance, stabilization, holding, nurturing is what the Sadashiva, because it's the connected to the Annapurna, Annakshetra. When it comes to the Kala Bhairava, we call it as actions as a removing. He actually removes any kind of an which is not necessary for you. That is the Swarupa of the Kala Bhairava. But here he maintains. He knows that actually what is need to be eliminated from your life at one given point of time. Or he brings the energies or the when it is really crisis is coming to your doorstep. For a sadhakas, when we do Aradhana of the Kala Bhairava, it breaks the ego. But when it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava, it is actually deepens the surrenderness. The surrenderness actually comes when you actually do Aradhana of the Shiva Tattva or the Sadashiva Bhairava Swarupa perspective. Here in Kala Bhairava, the eternal fire is eternal element, or we can feel when it comes to the sadhana, it is about the fire, or we can call it as Agni Tattva. Vayu Tattva is what actually more essential in the Kala Bhairava elemental perspective. This information actually we have written in A Life Within and Without, a book very clearly about how exactly this Tattva, Pancha Tattva is connected to the elemental forms and how Bhairava decodes this information to the Bhairavima. Maybe that's the information we have shared in the book. If you feel that it is wrong, you can make sure that actually you can read that segment. Again, that book is not for everyone. Let me just underline this. Coming back, this particular elemental feel, when it comes to the Kala Bhairava, as I told you, it is being Agni as well as Vayu Tattva. Here, Sadashiva Bhairava, it is like, we can call it as a Akasha Tattva. And Akasha Tattva is Sampurna, it is like entire creation is silence. One, we can call it as actually purifies, and one presence is actually being felt. Both are necessary. Ugra Swarupa, Shanta Swarupa. That is what Bhairava is all about. Bhairava is not only Ugra, as always told. Once you know about the complete Swarupa of the Bhairava, you will get to know about all the Trigunas in the life. Coming back, here in Sadashiva Bhairava perspective, he has the three eyes, as I told you from the iconography. When it comes to the three eyes actually has been connected to one particular connections. See, Karma Drishti, one actually eyes is connected to Karma Drishti. What you deserve in your life, what is necessity in your life, what is essential in your life, that is validated by Sadashiva. Because he nurtures, he supports Annapurneshwarima, and he need to make sure he sustains this. The second is Kala Drishti. Kala Drishti is like when it should happen, why it should happen in your life. This is called Kala Drishti. And this particular action will happen when his third eye is being considered as Kala Drishti Swarupa. The third eye, the left, or we can call it as the left eye, is being considered as a Karma Drishti. The middle eye, third eye is called as a Kala Drishti. The right eye is called as a Kripa Drishti. Why Kripa Drishti? What grace can override one's particular sadhaka's life is what he is going to teach. See, Sadashiva Bhairava balances all these three simultaneously. Bhairava, Tattva, Sadashiva Bhairava perspective. When it comes to the Swarup of the Sadashiva Bhairava, he makes sure that your karmic actions, your Kala, what, when is being taken care. Kripa Drishti, his Drishti is going to make sure his grace is going to override every situations in the life. This is why Sadhaka says, like, things happen at the right time. Maybe you have heard about this particular statement, as many people will talking about this, or even the Guru normally tells it. Everything happens at the right time. This is not a coincidence. This is a Kala Bhairava functioning through the Sadashiva's Tattva perspective. Here, that is the reason I always tell, when it comes to the Bhairava Aradhana, once you do the Aradhana of the Bhairava, automatically in a different Swarupas, he will make sure that actually he is going to come and support us in a different stages of the life. And that different stages is going to teach us how exactly this is ready to accept him completely into this particular life. And this can only happen with the Bhairava Sadhakas. Sarvam Bhairava Swarupam. this is what Kala Bhairava functioning through the Sadashiva aspect. We can call it as a Sadashiva mode perspective. And as I already told, even in the iconography, you may be bit wondering, skull. But when it comes to the skull, as I told, ego, he removes the ego. Here, it is not about the symbolization of the death, of what Kala Bhairava of a skull he holds. It is a different. Skull is actually a bhiksha bowl he holds. Okay, is an actually emptying your ego. It is actually asking Bahut Bhikshan Dehi Ma Alak, even in the Natha Sampradaya, Alak Niranjan. Why we do that? We actually are emptying the ego in front of someone. The vessel of the karma, we call this as actually the bowl, a kappar, or what we call it as. It is actually the vessel of the karma. It is actually a bowl of the collection of your destiny, what is really needed. This is what actually Sadashiva bowl is all about. This kappar of Sadashiva Bhairava is connected to this. Here, wherever you offer a Bhairava is surrendered, he transforms, make sure that he returns something purifying your life. That is what actually, even in the sadhana aspect perspective, even when you go to the higher level of the sadhana, it has been asked that actually you to go to the alam, you need to take the bhiksha for a sadhana. Why? Bhairava has done this, Sadashiva has done this, Sadashiva Bhairava has done this. This is what he is trying to share us that very clearly. Empty your ego. The vessel of a karma, make sure that this karma is going to get empty before you get any kind of you collect any kind of a destiny in your bowl, in your kappa. Make sure that ego is being removed from your life. And the ego is offered. Sustenance returns in particular life. When you surrender your ego to his lotus feet, automatically the sustenance will return. Something called as an instability in the particular one's sadhaka's life will go away. The ego is being surrendered to his lotus feet. When you offer a fear to him, automatically courage comes. When you offer a greed to him, we call it as contentment will return to him, to the sadhakas. But if you approach him with a manipulation, I need this, having some agenda in the mind, I need something, this, that, manipulation, trust me, he mirrors it back. That is the reason many people tell, when you do a sadhana of the Bhairava, make sure that you be very conscious, because you are playing with the Kala, you are playing with the Tattva of a Guni Tattva. We call it as Sarva Guni Tattva, Shunya Tattva, who knows about the mastery of the Shunya Tattva. When you make offering to him without any kind of a manipulation, then only your puja aradhana will be accepted. Here we can also see in a different perspective. When it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava, this particular information actually I'll not share much more information, but every Bhairava Swarupa perspective, when we do aradhana, there is a particular mantra, there is a particular nyasa, there is a particular Ashtottara Shatanamavali, there is a particular puja vidhana, tantra vidhana which has been performed. But when it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava, when we invoke any kind of a nourishment in the particular life, Anna, as I told you, Anna Rahasya, we create a certain yantras. Okay, this yantra is actually a divine connection between the we can call it as a breathing synchronization. I can call it as a breathing synchronization because this yantra will actually activate the connection between you and that particular tattva. It is a establish a prana into that. See, somewhat like without pranayama, the yantra remains like a metal. We normally tell when it comes to the yantra puja, every format of the yantra is being activated once the mandala has been created, and that particular mantra, a particular chakra is being activated in that particular mandala, and we what we call it as the yantra start breathing. The yantra start actually become alive. Any kshetra you feel that it is a powerful, let it be like Annapurneshwari Mahakshetra, like um, many of the, even in Kashi, whichever the Mahakshetras are there, even Jyotirlingas, you will be able to find that energy prominence is very, very high because of yantra has been active. That particular daiva is been activated through the living formation. And once the yantra has been created, particular elements, as I told you, when it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava, Manipura and the Muladhara, this particular axis has been active in that particular yantra. And once it has been active, it is not just a metal. Okay, it breathes its awareness, and we can call it as it is somewhat like it is a living circuit. It will become a living circuit. See, real yantras is within this body, and once that yantra is completely active, this is you normally feel his presence. When you come in the Bhairava sadhana perspective, after the Prathama Charana, before you even enter the Dvitiya Charana, there is something the module called as an Rudraksha Diksha. Why? Because Rudrakshi is going to be a yantra for the sadhakas. It is going to be a Bhairava yantra. So that is the reason these are the stages to make yourself available to the cosmic connections. And it is not an external device or the external plates or the external diagrams. It is only a stabilization connection to you for this body to experience the tattvas. And that's how actually it is connected to. And when it comes to the Jata, we call it as Sadashiva Bhairava. See, paradox, what we call it as a property of the paradox. Here, Bhairava has been shared in, we call it as Jata Mukta. His Swarup, every Swarupas of the Bhairava is actually Jata Mukta. Here, why Bhairava is being shown as a Jata Mukta? It is about the non-attachment. Okay, the non-attachment of what? Like when you drop something, automatically you increase something. That is actually you increase the awareness, and this is the paradox of Bhairava. Every sadhana of the Bhairava is what this is going to teach you. And clinging creates it. Normally we tell, do not do a sadhana expecting that something is going to happen in your life. Always it has been said here, if you have come to do some sadhana here to gain something, this is not the place. If you are ready to lose, Bhairava sadhana is going to teach you or take you to the different levels where actually you can't even imagine. Clinging will always delay. Surrender creates the flow. That is the reason the real Tantra secret, especially when it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava, is a peace phase of the time. He's a very peace, nurturing phase of the time. Kala Bhairava, as I told you, the energy aspect perspective, Kala Bhairava is actually going to destroy it, which is not necessary for you. But Sadashiva Bhairava, he'll sustain it. He'll make sure that you are going to be connected. Both are same consciousness. Again, mythological events, do not consider this as actually like what came first. No. Even if you have know about any kind of a mantra science perspective, let me also tell you, even the activation, or we call it as the activation of any mantra, is not being done, or we call it as completely, the prana is not being poured. Even the mantra, even the rudram is not activated by one particular rishi or one devata. It was a Vishnu, he was able to get this invoking this rudram, making sure that actually the different rishis activating the sequence of the different slokas on the particular mantra was being active in a different sequence. Like for example, a verse 1, 8 and 12 from Atri. From Narada Maharishi, it was like, if I'm not wrong, it was 8, 9, 10 and 11 verses. Why I'm trying to tell you this? Every mantra or every activation of the mantra happens through one particular stages. And when it comes to the Bhairava, it is not like 1, 2, 3, 4. It is always a different Swarupas in a parallel which will be done. And this cosmos creation, whatever we call it as Bhairava Guna, is what we as sadhakas need to understand. And before we conclude this today episode, let me also tell you about Sadashiva Bhairava is in a simple words, any kind of a digestion, to digest your food, you need that energy. To you move your breath from your inhale as well as exhale, you need energy. To sustain your house, to sustain your, maintain your family, your body, you need energy. To align with the destiny, to go to the destiny, plan to then action, you need an energy. And this energy is only being given, only being bestowed by Bhairava. Once he enters our life, every step will become miracle. And this miracle only cannot be, I can tell that it can be only be experienced by the sadhakas. Don't be a virtual reader, be a true experiencer. This is what Bhairava is always teaching us. Here, when you surrender your survival fear to him, when you surrender your survival fear to him, he enters fully. He enters, he is going to take the govern your life. And when he enters fully, he ensures that you become sacred. This is what actually Bhairava is going to teach us. And here his connection with the Panchamakara is also connected. Maybe that is a complete tantric aspect perspective, how the Panchamakara, his Aradhana is being done here in a Kaula, especially when it comes to the activation of the Anna Tattva. We normally do in a Panchamakara Puja perspective. And even when it comes to the Annapurneshwari, there is Annapurneshwari Bhairava Yantra normally being done to activate that particular kshetra, making sure that there is no any kind of fear in that particular kshetra. Abundance will be growing in that particular kshetra. And this all can happen only with his grace. See, when it comes to the Sadashiva Bhairava, keep this in mind. He is a pure consciousness. He is a prana. He is a nourishment. He makes the life force experience, and that spiritual rasa, we call it as, can only enhance when you experience the Bhairava. And Bhairava, as always I tell, before even talking about any Devi Swarupa perspective in entire cosmos, it is connected to Bhairava. Any Devi connection is connected to Bhairava. And to experience or know about the Devi, Bhairava need to come into your life. It may be vice versa. But once Bhairava comes into your life, your spiritual rasa you will be able to understand into a different levels. Shakti energizes the consciousness. Prana nurtures the awareness. But devotion nurtures the detachment. This is what Sadashiva Bhairava is teaching us. He is actually going to help us, like consciousness depends upon the Shakti for the expression. But here, the divine of Devi, energy willing to survive the awareness, is what actually Shakti is going to teach. This we can call it as Ida and Pingala of Sushumna Nadi, which has been active. That's where actually Bhairava Guna, Bhairava Tattva is all been considered. When Bhairava is matter here, Kala Bhairava, he removes the obstacles. Sadashiva Bhairava sustains the flows. Annapurneshwari Ma, she nourishes the entire cosmos. And this particular awareness can only happen once you start receiving his grace in your life. This shift can only happen when you are ready, yourself ready. Always tell, in Kaula Tantra perspective, it is not about him, learning about him, it is about dissolving into him. And that is what Bhairava is all about. With that note, in today's video we'll take it off. We'll come out with one more Swarupa or Ishtartha Guru Bhairava, where we talk about him, know about him, listen about him, speak about him, experience about him, and see how exactly he is flowering our life into a different dimensions. Om Kalakalaya Vidmahe Kalatitaya Dhimahi Tanno Kala Bhairava Prachodayat. Om Hingule Paramahingule Amrita Rupini Tanu Shaktimane Shive Shri Hingulaya Namaha. Namaskaram.